Hello, and welcome to episode 18 of the Sarah Seams podcast. My name is Sarah. I'm the maker here at this channel. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, where I live with my partner Troy and our cats Alex and Moo. And this is my little corner of the internet where I share all my crafty projects. This week it's mostly knitting, but I do have one sewing project and one crochet project to share with you. This is probably going to be a long one. It's been almost 3 weeks since I last recorded, so I have lots and lots to share, but we're just going to dive in. If you are interested in seeing more about my projects, you can find me on Instagram at Sarah_Seams or on Ravelry at Sarah Ribble. And I'm going to jump in with my first finished object, which is also what I'm wearing. So this is the Collage Gather Top. It is a pattern by Matchy Matchy Sewing Club, which is a fairly new pattern company. I think it's run by two women, and all of their patterns are really cute, like patchwork kind of designs. So I think this was one of their first designs, and I'll stand up so you can see it. So this is the top. I did make the long sleeve version. There's also a short sleeve version that just has a cuff here instead of continuing into the sleeve. And as you can see, I did just use one fabric for mine, but to make it a little more interesting, I cut these bottom side panels on the bias. So I feel like it still kind of gives it that like patchworky look, but you can see there's princess seams, and then there's a top side panel, a bottom side panel, and then the sleeve. I really like this. I really like how it fits. The bias panels, as you can see, it does make that side panel a bit longer than the front panel. So that's just one thing to note. I don't mind it, but if you didn't cut those on the bias, it would probably help with that a bit. But yeah, there's all kinds of really cute versions of this where people have used like different fabrics for all the different parts. So I think you can keep it simple, or you can make it a little bit more fun, colorful. This was an upcycle project for me. I initially used this fabric, which I should say is stonewashed gingham from Blackbird Fabrics. I initially used this to make a clo bias skirt, and I was very unhappy with the fit of that pattern. I talked a lot about that in a previous episode. I'll try and link to that above if you're interested, but I upcycled that skirt into this top, and I'm much happier with this. I really like the way that it fits. The only thing I might change on the next version is the cuffs on the sleeve. I find to be a little bit tight, especially if they ride up to where my arm's a little bit larger. So next time I might put an elastic in here instead of doing the rigid sewn cuff, but I'm still gonna wear this a lot. And I think it's a nice like transitional piece to go from summer to fall, which it's definitely hot here still, but I'm craving fall already. I'm starting to feel it. The mornings have been a little bit cooler, and I know we probably have 3 more months of hot here, but I'm ready for fall. This is available. I didn't write down the whole size range. It's fairly size inclusive if I remember correctly. I think it goes up to a 60-some inch bust. I made the size XL. And yeah, that's it for this one. Quick little fun project. My next 2 finished objects are both knitting. So let me show you the small one first, then we'll do the big one. And actually the big one is crochet, so that probably gives away what it is. So I am participating in Sari Nordland's Summer Sock Knit Along. This is my 3rd year of participating, and I have finished the, wait, what month is it now? August. I didn't say that. Today's August 11th. It's Friday afternoon. And so I finished the July socks. The knit along started in June this year. So these was the 2nd pair for the knit along, and these are the Minerva socks. So I did, the first one took me like 3 weeks, and the second one I busted out in like less than a week. I feel like with these really complex sock designs, the first one always takes so long, and then the second one flies, at least for me. So yeah, here's the set. I'm very happy with them. Let me just show you one in detail. Maybe this second one. So it has this really pretty little cable detail up the side, and then on the front and the back, they have this little tulip stitch, which is a cable pattern. Very, very cute. I love this yarn. It's very pretty. It's by the Backcountry Knitter, who had a trunk show at a local yarn store here. The color is Dusty Rose, and it is this really pretty pale pink with these specks of yellow and orange. And yeah, I'm just very happy with how these turned out. So second pair in the Summer Sock Knit Along done. And in the whip section today, I will show you what I've got done on the third pair. So yeah, those ones are going in the sock box for now. Last FO, this is a big one. I did not expect this to be an FO today, but I started working on it and I just couldn't stop working on it, and it's done. So this is my Ariana cardigan by Amy Christoffers. So I'll try to hold it up. It's so big. I have a video. Here it is. So I'll just hold it up so you can see the color. The yarn is Barocco Lannis, which is the recommended yarn for the pattern. They just have color numbers, and unfortunately I don't have the ball bands anymore, but I used this nice warm heather brown, heather burgundy, solid navy, and solid of this like periwinkle gray. I really, really like how this turned out. So I'm gonna set this down and put in the video of me wearing it while I'm talking about it. So I talked a little bit about this on the last episode, but this pattern, this was a bit of a trade with my mother. So I know how to crochet. I learned how to crochet first, but she's the real crochet queen. So she crocheted all the granny squares for me and then passed them back to me, and I joined them all. So everywhere you see the brown around the granny squares, I did that. And then I also did all the knit finishings. So the bottom cuff is knit, the button band is knit, and the sleeve hems are knit. So I would say it was about 50-50. The knitting on this took me a lot longer than I expected it to. But joining them was super fun and addictive. So I did you do a join as you go method with crochet, which I've never done before, but I feel like I was kind of intimidated by it. But once I sat down and actually just started doing it, it was very intuitive and addictive. Like I couldn't put it down. I think I finished piecing the whole thing in like 3 or 4 sittings, and it's quite large. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. So a couple of things I changed. This is the size 1. It is available in 2 different sizes. The largest size is a 65-inch bust. So I made size 1. I also cropped it. I removed half a row of triangles because I had tried on a size 1 sample and knew it was going to be way too long. And to be honest, I wish this one was even like 2 or 3 inches shorter still. But so I did crop it. I also cropped the sleeves, and I, at the last minute, decided to omit the buttons and the buttonholes. So I knew I was kind of between sizes, and I went with size 1 because I didn't want to be drowning in it. But that means probably that I will only ever wear it open instead of buttoned up. So knowing that, I decided to omit the buttons because I also didn't have buttons that I wanted to use. And I think there's so much going on in the body of the cardigan. It really works to just have these like clean button bands. I also shortened the ribbing a bit on the body. I think it called for like 2.5 inches of ribbing at the body, the bottom, but I knew it was already going to be a little bit longer than I wanted. So I did just do like 1.5 inches or 2 inches, I think. But then on the sleeves, they were a little bit shorter than I wanted. So I did elongate the ribbing on the sleeves, which kind of gives it this nice like fitted balloon sleeve kind of look. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's very comfortable. This yarn is definitely a little bit on the rustic side. It's plenty soft enough for me to wear it, but it does feel woolly. But yeah, I love it. I think I'm going to be reaching for this a lot in the winter. And I love the colors that I went with. I feel like you can really see the nice heather in that brown. It has tones of the red, which it picks up nicely. Sorry, Moo's yelling at us. But yeah, that's my Ariana cardigan and my last FO. So I will pause here and be back with works in progress. Okay, as I said, it's been a little while since my last check-in, and I'll talk more about why that is at the end of the video. Lots going on in the personal life. But I thought I would just do a quick check-in on all of my active whips. These are all knitting projects. There are 7 of them. So the ones that are ongoing, I'm just gonna quickly touch on and give an update, but there are, I think, 3 or 4 new cast-ons as well. So I am going to just start going through them and we'll see how it goes. There's a lot. Okay, so we just saw the finished Minerva socks. That was the July pattern for the summer sock knit along. So the August pattern are these Summer Girls socks. Again, these are by Sari Nordlund, and I've already finished one, which I guess is almost the middle. Well, we're like a third of the way through the month. So here it is. Maybe hold it this way is better. Yeah, so you can see these are much more simple, really, than the 2 previous designs. It's almost a vanilla sock. So you start at the cuff, and it's a double folded cuff. So on the inside, it has ribbing. Okay, and you start with a provisional cast on, and on the inside there's ribbing. And then on the outside, there's stockinette. So then you fold that in, and you basically just knit a vanilla sock from there. Then you go back later and pick up stitches to do this insane ruffle. This ruffle is no joke. I think there's almost 300 stitches in this thing. Like, by the time you're done with it, it's like almost a sweater. Like, it's insane how many stitches are in this ruffle, but it is very impactful. It is extremely ruffly, and that reinforced cuff, that double thick cuff, really helps to support the weight of the ruffle. They look a little chunky off body, but when you're wearing them, they look really nice. And the yarn is, do I have the ball band? No, I do not. The yarn I purchased in Savannah at a local yarn store there, Savannah, Georgia. And it's this really pretty, like, tonal burgundy. It's getting a little bit washed out on the screen. That's probably closer to the real color there. It was hand dyed by the owner of the shop, and I'm so sorry I don't have the ball band anymore. I kind of can't remember. But yeah, it's really, really nice. It's an 80-20 blend, I believe. It's a twisted sock base. I'm using all twisted bases for these. So yeah, kind of knocked that first one out, hoping the second one will go quickly as well, because I have a couple other socks I want to do on the side. Amy Christoffers just released her Pressed Flowers socks, which I love the Pressed Flowers patterns, and I really want to cast on a pair of those soon, but I am determined to finish these first. I'm being a good knitter. I've also been working on a design for a new pair of socks, colorwork socks that I'm really excited about, but I have to find the right yarn for those first. So for now, I'm gonna keep working on these. I haven't started the second one yet, but happy to have finished the first. So I'm sure the second one will come right along. And oh yeah, I also have one other pair of socks on the go, because of course I do. This is my on the go car knitting kind of project. The bag is by Lock Knits. It's this really cute project bag. I got this at Moon and Yard Craft Room in Pittsburgh, their opening weekend. So I can't remember last time if I had finished the first sock or not, but I finished the first sock and it's more frills. These are the All the Frills socks by Summerly Knits. And I just wanted like a simple on the go sock project. So once you get past the little frill here, these are really almost vanilla socks. But this yarn is super fun, really pretty, like light blue base with all these colorful speckles. And I think it just really lends itself to this like frilly, fun little sock. So yeah, the first one is done. And I can't, what's the yarn here? This is Palmer Yarn Company. It just says hand dyed with love. It doesn't have any color information. It's their soft base. Here's what it looks like in the cake. And I have gotten started on the second one. So here's what I have. I'm working on, oh, that's a mess. Okay. I'm just working on the heel. So the hard part is done. Not that it's hard, it's just harder than knitting a vanilla sock. And now I'm onto the heel, and I'm sure those will be done in no time. So yeah, I have two very frilly, fun socks on the go right now. All right, that's that. I just have a mountain of whips. Like, oh, it's a lot. Okay. Next one is a new cast on. I suppose the summer girl socks were also a new cast on. So I recently knitted the Alpine Bloom tee by Caitlin Hunter, which is one of my favorite things I've ever made. I'm really proud of it and I loved the colors. And Caitlin just released the Alpine Bloom hat. So I was like, yes, casting on, let's go. And I think I have just enough of the yarns from my tee left to make the hat. So I'm using the same colors from my tee. So this is Kelborn Woolen's Camper Base in the color Driftwood Heather. Just this really pretty neutral heather. And then the contrast color is Primrose Yarn Co. Homestead Sport in the color Spacesuit. You can see it's all these like pinks and oranges and purples and greens. So yeah, those are my two colors. And I've really just started on this, like I cast it on last night and I barely worked on it, but I can tell it's gonna be a super quick project. So here's what I have. It's kind of hard to show because it's so small right now. I might be playing a bit of yarn chicken with the solid color, the main color. I think I'm gonna have just enough, and almost if I don't have quite enough to finish up the crown, I'll just use a similar color from Stash and like put a pom-pom on it. But yeah, so I did knit slightly less ribbing just in an attempt to conserve a little bit more of that yarn. And then you can see I've just started knitting the first like 8 or 9 rounds of the pattern repeat, but it's gonna go really quickly. Sorry, it's kind of hard to show when there's just not that much on there. But yeah, you can kind of see the leaf motifs starting to emerge there. It's gonna be a real fun, quick little project, and I have a feeling this one is gonna become a Christmas gift. So yeah, it's been nice to work with those yarns again, and hopefully I'll be able to use most of them up and like have fully used everything from that project, which I love to do when I can. So that is a really fun little quick project. I always like to have a balance of like big projects and small projects so I can always feel like I'm completing things and making progress, because right now I have a lot of garments on the needles. And while I have made progress on all of them, especially when you have many garment whips at once, it's easy to feel kind of bogged down. So I always like to have something small that I know I can finish in a week or two, just to kind of keep my momentum up. I'm just going to quickly show you my Cinnabar shawl. I've been working on it in the background, but you know, it's very slow growing. This is a long-term project. It's also kind of hard to show, but I will try my best. This is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. It is a half brioche, half garter shawl. Here is what I have. So it's growing. I'm in the 3rd repeat section of the brioche stripes. The yarns I'm using are Lichen and Lace Heather Sport in the color Smoke, which is just this really pretty gray rustic yarn. And then my contrast color is Ba Yarn's Savannah Base in the color Toasted Neutral. And I'm holding that with some Rowan Kid Silk Haze in just like their off-white, which I think the pattern doesn't call for mohair, but I think adding in the mohair is giving a really nice fluffy texture that you wouldn't necessarily get in the original. But yeah, it's nice to just have the variation in the color. I think the original calls for color changing like spin cycle or something. So there's not that like color changing. I feel like you get a momentum with a color changing yarn because you're always like waiting to see the next color. But the thing that's keeping me coming back to this one right now is how nice the texture is and just how like soft and easy to work on that it is. This has kind of become my reprieve project. So you can see there the garter section, the brioche section. So yeah, just plugging away on that. It's been a very like calming project, which it's nice to have something like that you don't really have to pay attention to the chart. You can just kind of work on it. And I'm really enjoying that. It's my first real big shawl project. and I would like to finish it before winter because I think I'll be wearing it a lot. Okay, so now we're getting into the garment whips, and again, these are just the active ones. I have like 3 more on this shelf that I have not been working on recently. So these are my active garment whips. The first one is the Tesselated Pullover. Also, I'm just looking at my notes here and realizing I missed some things. So going back to the Alpine bloom hat, it's available in 3 sizes, from child to adult large. I'm making the middle size, adult small medium. Okay, and the Cinnabar shawl is only 1 size. Okay, so we're back to the Tesselated Pullover. This is Andrea Mowry's Rhinebeck sweater this year, well, one of the 2. So she made a pullover and a vest version. I am making the pullover. I love the shape of it. It's this very cute drop shoulder, like cropped kind of boxy fit sweater. I'll put a picture in of the final sweater. And the yarns I am using are Barocco Lanus, again, the same yarn I used in my Ariana cardigan. This is my main color. This is the light version, so it's kind of like a sport weight, and this is their navy color, same color I used in my cardigan. I really like that yarn as like a more affordable option for a main color, I think. You know, when you're knitting something like this that requires like color changing yarn and fluffy yarn, it can get really expensive. So that I think was a way to like make this more affordable for me, and I like it as a basic kind of, I think especially with color work, it's fine as like a main color if you're mixing it with some softer yarns. My contrasting color is, once again, Homestead Primrose yarn. Y'all, words are a struggle today. Primrose Yarn Co. Homestead Sport Base. This time I'm using the color Hipster, which is this really soft kind of like orange, yellow, blue, purple, kind of more pastel. I wanted something that would contrast really starkly with the navy blue yarn. And then for my fluff, I am using Fiber Spates Surrey, which is, what is it called? Cloud something? Cumulus, sorry. It's a type of cloud. Yes, this is their Cumulus base. It's a Surrey base, which is my first time using Surrey. It is really nice. It doesn't quite have the like hairiness of mohair, but it does have the fluff, and it's going to be really nice next to skin. Like mohair sometimes is itchy, especially if you're really warm, and I think this will be really nice. So I chose this kind of like slightly lighter blue. And I finished the body, so let me show you. I think last time I was working on the ribbing, and here is the body. So you can see I've got the navy main color background, and then I've got the color changing yarn, which is softly changing from like pinks. It started a little bit warmer, changing. Right now it's in like cotton candy, pink and blue kind of colors, and then the little slightly less dark blue fluff in between. So yeah, my version is going to be pretty cropped. I have a very short torso. I do expect it to grow a bit because of the mosaic stitch pattern, and the color changing yarn is superwash, so I expect it to gain a little bit of length. But yeah, I finished the body. Yay! Right now I think this is about 6.5 inches. So if it grows like 1/2 inch or 1 inch, that'll be a perfect crop length for me to wear it with skirts. And it looks so short, but like truly, that is my natural waist. So I really just have a short torso, y'all. But yes, that's gonna be the length I want it. I don't know why I keep saying y'all today. I guess that's just the vibe on a Friday. Yes, very happy with the color combo, very happy with how it's knitting up. This is also a pretty meditative knit. Like once you get in the rhythm of slipping and knitting, like it kind of just flies. But I am ready to split for the front and the back, so that's probably going to require a little bit more focus now that I'm going to be knitting back and forth instead of just knitting in the round. But I am very happy with it. So far the only modification I've made is on the bottom. It does call for 3 inches of ribbing. I only knit 2.5 inches of ribbing, and it still took me forever. This is on 2.75 millimeter needle. It's very small. It's a lot of stitches and it's just slow going. So, I mean, I'm really enjoying knitting this. I'm not, unfortunately not going to Rhinebeck this year, but I am planning to wear it that weekend in solidarity. My local yarn store, 614 Knit, is hosting a not Rhinebeck knit along. So they're gonna have some events that weekend. Hopefully I can wear it to that as well. But yeah, I would say definitely know, like, you're gonna have to slog through a big chunk of ribbing before you get to the fun part. But once you do, it's totally worth it, and I think it is very impactful. So yeah, that is my Tesselated pullover. I'm excited to start working on the rest of the body for that one. Okay, next two are both new cast-ons, I think. I think they are. One of them has been in the pipeline for a while, but this one I'm about to share with you is brand new. So I've been trying to not do as many test knits this year, and I think I've been pretty successful at that. However, I saw this design pop up on Instagram, and I just thought it was very, very cool. And when the test call came out, I did stop and think about it, like, do I have the capacity to do this right now? And I decided that I did, because the test knit is 15 weeks, so it goes till almost the end of November, which is a very generous testing window, and I know that I can get it done in that amount of time and not feel stressed about it on top of all of my other projects. So I decided to apply, and I'm excited that I've been chosen. So the pattern is the Chained Oblivion cardigan by, I believe their Instagram handle is Knit Nikabi. Their name is Kelsey Garner. And their yarn dyer, this is their first garment pattern. I think they've had a few accessory patterns come out. I will put a picture of this in. It's so cool. It has these like chain link cables on the sides of this V-neck cardigan, and the rest is all seed stitch, and it has these like amazing balloon sleeves with some more of the chain cables. And I was reading in the post that it's inspired by a Dungeons and Dragons character, and I thought that was cool. So it's not like, I feel like this is a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's not necessarily like, it's maybe a little bit more edgy than I would like normally go for, but I think it's so cool. And the other reason I decided to apply was because I had yarn in stash that I thought would be perfect. So had the time, had the yarn, decided to apply, was chosen, and now I'm excited I get to try this new pattern. It was also tech edited, which is nice. So, you know, hopefully we will just be knitting it for the experience and the product to see how it fits and not be encountering a lot of mistakes. And so far that seems to be the case. So let me show you what I have, which is just ribbing. I have a lot of just ribbing to show you today. So I guess let me talk about the yarn first, actually. So the yarn I had in my stash was a bunch of Cascade 220, and it is in this black heather color, which to me looks pretty similar to the color that the designer sample was knit in, maybe slightly lighter. It's not like a pure black, but it is pretty dark. Again, it's dark, but it has this nice heather to it, which I think will give really nice dimension to the cables. And it's my first time using Cascade 220. I just got this big lot of it from a secondhand shop online at a really, really good price. So I knew that I wanted to use that for this. And right off the bat, I will say the Kelsey, the designer, has an extremely tight tension. The pattern calls for a DK weight yarn, which this is, I would say that this Cascade 220 is between a DK and a worsted. It's probably slightly closer to worsted, but I was like, oh, I can make that work. Then I saw how tight the gauge was. The gauge calls for 26 stitches per 4 inches with a DK, which I think is unconventional. And Kelsey even told all of us in the group chat, you know, I'm a super tight knitter. You're probably gonna have to go down a couple of sizes. But a lot of people have had to go down to a fingering weight yarn, and some are on like size 1 needles. Like it really, most people are not gonna achieve gauge for this with the suggested yarn, which is a little bit of a tricky, like, I don't know, I think that's a little bit challenging. You know, she was very upfront about it, but I think if this is a pattern you might eventually be interested in knitting, that's something you should definitely know going in. You may have to go down to a sport or fingering weight yarn instead of the DK weight yarn that the pattern calls for. However, I was determined to make it work with this Cascade 220 because I already had it and I knew I wanted to use it for this. So I did a bunch of swatches, which are not my favorite thing to do, but I will do them when they're necessary, you know, for something like this. So I was trying a bunch of different needle sizes. The pattern calls for the swatch to be in seed stitch because that is the main pattern. And this was my final swatch. You can see, I feel like the texture shows up so nice with this yarn. And this has quite a bit of drape still, but also body. Like, I think it'll have nice structure, but still be comfortable. So I did have to go, the pattern calls for a 4.5 mm needle. I did have to go down to a 3.5 millimeter needle for the main body to achieve gauge. And I'm also having to knit more tightly than I normally do, which is not ideal. Normally you don't want to change the way you are used to doing things. You want to make your tools like work for you instead of the other way around. But I did not want to buy new yarn for this. So I'm making it work. That said, I can already tell it is going to be hard on my hands having to knit at that dense of a gauge. So I am really, really glad that it's, you know, almost a 4-month test knit because it's going to take, I'm going to really have to work on it in little bits. But I think the end result is going to be fantastic. So here is what I have. It's ribbing. I've just finished the body ribbing this morning and I'm getting ready to start the main body pattern with the cables. And I'm really excited to see how that goes. I won't harp on this too much because I don't have that much to show, but I will keep you all updated on this. It's a really exciting pattern from an exciting new designer. I think there was quite a bit of like hype around it, so I'm happy to be testing. If I didn't already say this, I'm testing size E, which is the 5th size, which is a 51-inch bust. I have a 44-inch bust, so that's 7, is that 7 inches of ease? Yeah, which the pattern calls for 3 to 5, so it is maybe slightly gonna be a little bit more oversized on me, but that's just fine. This is one I'd love to be able to wear buttoned up, and that means I want it to be a little bit more boxy, so that'll be good. It is gonna be available up to a 67-inch bust. So that is my Chained Oblivion cardigan. It sounds so like dark, like Chained Oblivion. I think it's based on like a D&D, like bad guy, like a monster. So that kind of makes sense. Shows you how much I know. But I'm excited to be testing it. Sorry, we're gonna have a little coffee break here. Okay. Still with me? One more whip. I think I'm getting through them pretty quickly. Okay, so this one, I can't remember if I talked about it last time or not. Maybe I did when I talked about frogging the sweater that I had started for Troy, because this is a new sweater for Troy and it's already going much more smoothly. I'm really enjoying working on it, and that is a good sign. So I am working on the Lanark sweater for him. This is a design by Rebecca, the Crochet. I'll put a picture of it in. It is an all over half fisherman's rib, half brioche. I think they're interchangeable, like one side is the brioche and one side is the rib, in my understanding. So yeah, it's a half fisherman's rib, quarter zip pullover, and I am making it with this Rowan felted tweed, which again I got in a D stash. I got a whole lot of it, and the color is Stone. It's this really interesting, like kind of like green gray taupey color, and then it has these little flecks of blue and black and white throughout in the tweed. You can really kind of see it there. And I've been zooming right along on this. It's really fun to knit. So Rebecca had released the pattern last year, and I think she had received a lot of questions about certain parts of the process, and she decided to take the pattern down for a while. And she just, in the past month, re-uploaded it, which I still had access because I'd already purchased it, but I decided to wait until she released the new version and added some more of the supplementary materials on YouTube. And I'm really glad that I did, because there are a couple of tricky rows in this where you could figure it out on your own, but it's so helpful to have a video that can just walk you through it step by step. So yeah, here's what I have. So I finished the collar, which is this bit here. So that will wrap around like this, which you can see it's double thickness, it's folded over. And I've also just finished the back panel here. So now I'm gonna be knitting the front panels, which I think probably I'm gonna pick up like here and then knit down. I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna come together. That's another area where there's some video support. But yeah, I'm about to start the front panels, and then I will be joining in the round and working on the body and then working on the sleeves. So it's going surprisingly quickly. I find it so easy and comforting to work on. So you can see that's the inside. So that's the brioche. And you can see how the stitches are like a little bit more squatty and fluffy. And then on the right side, it looks like more of a traditional rib. So I think this is this side is like the fisherman's rib and the other side is the half brioche. Like there's a couple, you can either work it like one way or the other, and you can work it inside out, like if one way is easy for you, and that's all laid out in the pattern. But yeah, I'm just kind of doing what the pattern says because I don't mind purling, but I do feel like every single project I'm doing right now has a lot of purling, so it's a lot of ribbing over here. Anyways, I am really happy with how the provisional cast on worked out. So you can see here where the back joins to the neck, it's super nice and clean looking. Which when you first started, I wasn't exactly sure how that was going to work out, but I am really pleased with it. I am going to have to buy a zipper because I have some zipper tape that I was thinking about using, but I was kind of holding it up with it and I just really don't like how it looks, so I'll have to buy a zipper. But yeah, it's making this really nice squishy fabric, and that's been fun to work on. So this is available up to a 71-inch bust. I'm making the size 3 for Troy, which is a 44-inch chest measurement to fit a 40-inch chest measurement. So that's 4 inches of positive ease for him. I think that is it. I think that's all the whips that we're going to talk about today. So thank you for hanging in for that. I'm going to pause here real quick. I just have a couple of acquisitions and then some chat at the end. Okay, so I'm back with just a couple of acquisitions to share with you today. There's actually kind of no yarn, so I'll start with that one. I purchased an advent calendar, so I am really excited to have an advent calendar for the first time ever for the holidays this year, and I purchased it from one of my favorite yarn companies, Camelia Fiber Co. And I'll put a little picture in here. It is inspired, the theme is like secret garden. So I'm going to be getting 12 days, I think 12 20-gram mini skeins of the fingering weight yarn. That is the option that I chose, and I'm really excited. Some of my favorite designers are working on advent calendar patterns, so I'm excited to see what they come up with, what Camelia Fiber Company comes up with. And it's kind of weird to like make this slightly larger purchase and not have anything to show for it. I'm sorry, I have the hiccups. But it will be very fun to open those up around the holidays. So that is a fun one. I wish I had more to share about it, but I'll just put it out there in the universe for now. And you know, at the holidays, I'm sure you'll get to see me open them with me. I haven't exactly decided what I'm gonna do for Vlogmas. I think I'm gonna do like I think I'm gonna take video every day, but I think I'm only gonna release a video once a week because the editing process is what's really daunting to release a video every day. So let me know what you all think about that. I'm trying to like prepare for it just to make it as like easy as possible. I know it's only August, but it's gonna be here before we know it. So let me know if that's a format that you all like, or if you really prefer the everyday videos or like every couple of day videos. I'm curious what you all think about that. Anyways, my next acquisition is a book. I've been watching a lot of old episodes of the Fruity Knitting podcast. I feel like I'm like the last person that wasn't watching that. It is funny. It feels like it's out of time. Like it feels like a BBC show from like the early 90s, but it is contemporary, obviously, and it's just great. It's very educational. Like it really does feel like you're watching like, I don't know, like a documentary or something. But it's so great to see all of their interviews with, you know, our most popular yarn dyers and pattern designers and yarn mills. Like it's very, very interesting. So I've been watching like all of them from the beginning, basically. There's so much knowledge and content there, and it's a great like program that they put on. But one of the, you know, they will like talk about something and I'm like, oh, I need to learn more about that. And I've heard Elizabeth Zimmerman's name in various, you know, circles and places, but I really wanted to learn more about her. So many people cite her as the inspiration for how they learned to knit or how they learned to design or what inspired them to knit or design. And so I wanted to read one of her books. So I got a secondhand copy of Knitting Around, which is her semi-biographical, it's a semi-biographical pattern book. There's patterns, but at the beginning of each section, there's like a little bit about her life. And this is like an untouched copy. This one is from 89, and I don't think it had ever been opened before. But the original, oh no, I'm sorry, this one's from 97. The original printing was 89, but still, I mean, this book's 25 years old. And it's great. I'm not super far into it, but it is really interesting. I think she was pretty groundbreaking, which a lot of her techniques might seem very normal to us now, but I think I'm always someone who's interested in learning, and especially when I fall in love with something as much as I've fallen in love with knitting, I want to know everything about it, and I want to know all about its history. So I've been trying to read some more books like this, learn about some more people like this, and it's been really interesting so far. And the last acquisition I have is gonna kind of roll into Knit and Chat. So another thing that I was inspired to do by the Fruity Knitting podcast was to create like an independent study for myself about knitting techniques that I either haven't tried, want to learn more about, or want to perfect. And so I've been working on that behind the scenes, coming up with the like curriculum, kind of. So the idea is that each month, or you know, however long it takes, 4 to 6 weeks ideally per topic, I will focus like one night a week. I'm thinking like maybe Wednesday nights on learning this new thing or studying this new thing. And actually, let me pull it up so I can tell you a little bit about what some of them are. Sorry, I'm really excited about this. I feel like I've put a lot of effort into the planning, and I have yet to like actually jump in and start doing it, but I am hoping to start this week. So the techniques that I am going to dive into, and I actually have 13 here. So this is probably just going to be an ongoing thing that I'll like work on when I have time. So here's just the list: steeking, knitting color work flat, designing Fair Isle, which I kind of already started on that one. Provisional cast-ons, different types and their intended uses. Knitting with beads, which is something I really want to try. Double knitting, have not done that yet. Wrap and turn short rows, which may seem very obvious to most people, but I've only ever done German short rows. So some of these I think will be like one night and I'll be like, okay, I've learned the technique, now I got it. Some of them are going to be like months long exploration. Sock heel varieties, all the different types, and when to use them. So far I've really only done a short row heel and a classic heel flap and gusset. I've also done a garter heel, so I'd like to try some different types of heels. I-cord, I have not knit a lot of I-cord. I want to practice knitting I-cord, learn attached I-cord bind offs, all of that jazz. Magic loop, I want to learn how to do magic loop. I use DPNs for everything because that's how I learned, and I don't mind them, but I would like to be versatile and be able to do both. Also, I want to try knitting socks 2 at a time, just so I know how to do it. Also, different varieties of cast-ons, different varieties of bind-offs, and lastly, I recently just added baubles. If you've been here recently, you know I'm not a fan of baubles, of knitting baubles, but I would like to explore different techniques for knitting them and see if I can find a way that I like. Maybe it's crochet, I don't know. So that's a lot, but like I said, this is gonna be like an ongoing exploration over the next year or so, hopefully. And the first one that I'm getting ready to jump into is steeking, which I've not tried, and I have a whole document here. So just to give you an example of how I'm planning to break this down, the first thing would be knitting swatches. So I will be knitting the little Fair Isle swatches with the steeks. Then I'm planning to make 2 or 3 of those, do the steeking, and then I'm going to try crochet reinforcement, machine reinforcement, hand sewn reinforcement, no reinforcement. I'm going to try picking up the button band. I'm going to try several different techniques for finishing the steeked edges. I'm going to try sewing them down, knitting a facing, using a ribbon. And I have some other various articles on here about like why you would use a steek, the history of steeking, how to add a steek to your cardigan design, etc. So that I'm thinking is going to be the next like 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how long that all takes me, and I kind of have it broken out. Because like I said, I'm hoping to only work on this for like an hour or 2 once a week, in addition to all of my other projects. So yeah, that's just an example of kind of what I'm thinking one of these like lessons will look like. And it's all self-guided. And I love doing stuff like this. And so the acquisition part is that I bought myself this fun binder to keep all of my swatches and notes in. I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek here at my little Fair Isle design. Whoa. So yeah, there's not much in here right now, but I will be keeping all of my notes and swatches and little projects in here, just as a way to keep all of that in one place and so that I can reference it in the future. And I'm really excited to get started. So that was that's my big, I don't know, little spiel about how I'm trying to make sure I'm always learning new things, and I want to learn as much as I can about knitting. So that's the end of acquisitions. I was just going to quickly chat about what I've been up to for the past 3 weeks. There's been a lot going on. So the main thing is that one of my best friends got married over the last weekend. And I was in the wedding party, so you know, it was 2 full days, all day Friday, all day Saturday of wedding and wedding related activities. So super happy for her and her new husband. But you know, that is a lot. That's a lot. So definitely couldn't record a podcast last weekend. This past week I was a poll worker. We had a special election here in Ohio, and that is also a very long day. The night before you have to go help set up, and then the day of you get there at 5:30 a.m. and you don't leave until like 9:30 p.m. So thankfully it was busy. It was a great turnout and the day went really quickly, but it still kind of just takes a lot out of you. I was hoping to maybe record earlier this week, but it just didn't come together. And before that, you know, just summer stuff, lots going on. We did do a really fun family thing the weekend before the wedding. So we went, there is this place in Ohio called The Wilds. And if you're not familiar, it is owned by the Columbus Zoo, which is a wonderful zoo. It's like always one of the best ones in the country. So it's owned by the zoo, and it is this huge swath of land out kind of in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, that was previously mining land, and it was donated by the mining company to the zoo as like conservation land, you know, back in like the 80s, I think. And so it's these huge grasslands, and then there's these large bodies of water where like the mining used to be. But it's a really beautiful area, and they've basically turned it into this conservation facility for endangered, and even some of the breeds are actually labeled extinct because they only exist in captivity now. But it is a place where they try and like regrow populations of endangered and extinct animals. So it's very, very cool. And you can go and take a tour, and you can go like on the bus with everyone else, and you get to see the animals in a much different environment than you would at the zoo. You know, they're not in a cage, like they're just roaming around. Some of them are separated in large swaths of land. Like obviously the carnivores are not with the like antelopes, but for the most part, they are mixed in together in this huge expanse of land. So my parents really wanted our family to do a private tour, which is something we'd never done before. So basically we all 8 of us like loaded up in the back of this truck, and they drove us around, and we were so close to the animals. Like it was really a cool experience, like not a normal like zoo going experience. Like I mean, we were 2-3 feet from some of the animals. Like some of them came right up to our truck. Like we could have like reached out and touched them if we were allowed, you know. But it was so cool. I'm gonna put some pictures in while I'm talking. So I think one of the highlights was the baby zebra. There was a little tiny baby zebra, and he was such a cute little baby, adorable. We also got to feed giraffes, which was very cool. I know that is something you can do at the Columbus Zoo as well. But we also got to feed rhino, which was so cool. Their mouths are super weird. They have like a little point on the end that they can like grab stuff with. It's weird. And one of them did try to eat Troy's backpack, and he was like pulling it off the truck. It was very funny. So that was cool. What else? There was also a baby giraffe. There was a lot of babies. The rhinos were very cool. They do have like cheetahs and some African wild dogs. They have, yeah, all kinds of really interesting animals. Like I said, a lot of them are endangered or even extinct. So yeah, it's a really cool place to visit. It seems like such a random thing to be in Ohio. Oh, the camels were very fun too. They came like right up to the truck. I was like, I want to knit with your fur. Is that weird? I haven't tried camel. Has anyone knit with camel? Let me know what you think. I think it's a beautiful color. But anyway, the camels were great. Yes, it's a random thing to be in the middle of Ohio, but if you ever get the chance, it is very worth a visit and very cool. And all the proceeds go towards the conservation of these animals, which is great. So yeah, it's been a busy time. I think the rest of the summer is going to be much slower. Next big thing on the horizon is in September. Troy and I are taking 2 weeks of vacation, and we're going to be 1 week of that. We're going to be going out to the West Coast to visit family in Seattle and Eugene, Oregon. And I'm really excited about that. I'm going to definitely be doing some yarn tourism out there. I know I want to try and go to La Mercerie on Bainbridge Island for sure. I've been to Starlight Knitting Society in Portland, and I kind of want to try and go to Ritual Dyes this time. But if you have any other yarn shop or fabric shop recommendations for that area, you know, Seattle, Portland, Eugene, Oregon, like please let me know. I'm definitely taking collections. Or if you have any other recs, like great restaurants, anything, I would love your recommendations. We're starting to kind of figure out our plan. So yeah, that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I will try and be back in 2 weeks this time instead of 3. And I will see you next time. Bye.